Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss the new stories we share. Let's begin. The rain had just stopped falling over downtown Chicago when I first saw her. I remember the exact moment because my driver had slowed the car near the intersection of Michigan Avenue and Adams Street. Traffic was crawling. My phone kept buzzing with notifications about quarterly reports and board meetings, but something made me look up from the screen. There she was. A young woman, maybe 23 or 24 years old, standing on the corner with a cardboard sign. Her hair was matted and damp from the earlier downpour. Her clothes were wrinkled and worn, but it was her eyes that stopped me cold. They held something I recognized, something I had buried deep within myself for over 2 decades. Desperation mixed with dignity, hunger wrapped in pride. The sign read simply, "Just need one meal. My name is Marcus Webb. I am 61 years old and worth approximately $4.7 billion. I own 3 technology companies, 2 commercial real estate firms, and a private equity fund that spans investments across 37 states. I have dined with presidents, negotiated deals with foreign governments, and built an empire from the ashes of poverty." But in that moment, watching this young woman stand in the cold Chicago wind, I was transported back to a version of myself that most people never knew existed. I was once that hungry. I was once that alone. "Pull over," I told my driver, Thomas. He glanced at me through the rearview mirror with surprise. In 15 years of driving me, I had never once asked him to stop for a stranger on the street. "Sir, are you certain?" "Pull over, Thomas, now." The car eased to the curb. I stepped out into the damp April air, and the city sounds rushed in around me. Horns blaring, people talking on their phones, the distant rumble of the L train passing overhead. She noticed me approaching, and something shifted in her posture. I could see her calculating whether I was a threat or simply another person who would walk past without acknowledgement. "Hello," I said gently. "I saw your sign." She blinked at me, and I noticed her fingers were red from the cold. No gloves, no proper jacket. "I am not looking for money," she said quickly. Her voice was soft but firm. "I just need something to eat. One meal, that is all I am asking for." There was something about the way she spoke. Articulate, measured. This was not someone who had always lived on the streets. This was someone who had fallen. "What is your name?" I asked. She hesitated, and I watched her internal debate play out across her face. Trust was a luxury she could not afford. "Emma," she finally said. "Emma Richardson." The name hit me like a physical blow. Richardson. I felt my chest tighten. My mouth went dry. For a moment, the busy Chicago street faded away, and I was standing in a small apartment in Detroit, watching my mother cry over a stack of unpaid bills. Richardson, the name of the family that had destroyed everything I loved. I stood frozen on that sidewalk, staring at this young woman whose last name carried the weight of my deepest wounds. 26 years ago, a company called Richardson Manufacturing had employed my father. He worked in their Detroit factory for 18 years. He gave them his sweat, his health, and his loyalty. In return, they gave him a pink slip and a falsified termination report that accused him of theft. The accusation was a lie. Everyone knew it was a lie. But Richardson Manufacturing needed to cut costs, and framing longtime workers for misconduct meant they could avoid paying severance and pensions. My father never recovered from the shame. He died 2 years later. Broken and bitter, my mother followed him within the decade, her heart worn thin from grief and poverty. I had built my entire empire fueled partly by that rage, that injustice, and now standing before me was someone bearing the name Richardson. "Are you all right?" Emma asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "You look like you have seen a ghost." I forced myself to breathe. "I am fine," I managed. "Richardson, that is an interesting name. Any relation to Richardson Manufacturing out of Detroit?" Her face changed instantly. The guarded suspicion returned, harder than before. "Why are you asking me that?" "Just curious." She studied me for a long moment, and I could see her deciding whether to answer or walk away. "My grandfather founded that company," she finally said. "But that was a long time ago. The company went bankrupt 12 years back. My family lost everything." I processed this information slowly. The Richardsons had lost everything. The empire that had crushed my family had itself crumbled into dust. And here was their granddaughter standing on a Chicago street corner begging for food. Part of me felt a dark satisfaction, justice perhaps, delivered by the universe itself. But another part of me, the part that remembered hunger and cold and the feeling of being invisible, that part felt something else entirely. Compassion. "Come with me," I said. Emma took a step backward. "I do not know you." "My name is Marcus Webb. I own several companies in this city. I am offering you a meal, nothing more." "I know who Marcus Webb is," she said slowly. "Everyone knows who Marcus Webb is. Why would someone like you stop for someone like me?" I considered telling her the truth right then. I considered saying that her family had destroyed mine and that I should want to watch her suffer, but the words would not come. Because I remember what it feels like to be hungry, I said instead. And I remember what it feels like when everyone walks past like you are invisible. Something in her expression softened, just slightly, just enough. One meal, she said, and then I am gone. I nodded. One meal. Thomas opened the car door and Emma hesitated before climbing inside. I watched her take in the leather interior, the climate control, the quiet luxury that separated my world from hers. She said nothing, but I saw her hands trembling slightly as she settled into the seat. I took her to a small restaurant I owned near Lincoln Park. Not one of my fancy establishments where celebrities dined and deals worth millions were negotiated. This was a quiet place, family-run, where I sometimes came alone when I needed to remember where I came from. The owner, Maria, greeted me with a warm smile and asked no questions about my guest. Emma ordered soup and bread, nothing extravagant. She ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it might be her last meal for days. Which I realized it very well could have been. "Tell me your story," I said as she ate. She looked up at me with those tired eyes. "Why do you care?" "Because everyone has a story, and yours seems like one worth hearing." She set down her spoon and took a deep breath. "My grandfather built Richardson Manufacturing from nothing. My father grew up wealthy and titled, never had to work for anything real. When my grandfather died, my father took over and ran the company into the ground within a decade." I listened, my jaw tight. The lawsuits started piling up. Workers who had been mistreated, pension funds that had been raided, environmental violations. My father had no idea how to handle any of it. He just kept making it worse. "What happened to him?" Emma's voice grew quiet. "He killed himself 6 years ago, left my mother and me drowning in debt and shame." I felt something shift inside me. The anger that had burned for decades suddenly felt complicated, muddy. "My mother tried to keep us afloat," Emma continued, "but the medical bills from her cancer treatment finished what was left. She passed away 18 months ago. I have been on my own ever since." She wiped her eyes quickly, embarrassed by her own vulnerability. "I had a job for a while, secretary at a law firm in Cleveland, but they found out who my family was. The Richardson name is poison in certain circles. They let me go. After that, I could not find anyone willing to hire me." "So you came to Chicago. Fresh start, or so I thought. Turns out your past follows you everywhere." I sat back in my chair, wrestling with emotions I had not expected to feel. This woman was not responsible for what her grandfather had done. She had not made the decision to falsely accuse my father. She had not destroyed my family. She was simply another casualty in a long chain of broken people. "I need to tell you something," I said slowly. Emma looked at me, waiting. "My father worked for your grandfather's company. He was terminated under false accusations in 1998. He died believing the world thought he was a thief." Her face went pale. "Oh God," she whispered. "I have spent my entire adult life building my success partly on the fuel of that anger, that injustice. And now you are sitting across from me," Emma said, her voice barely audible. "The granddaughter of the man who hurt your family." "Yes." The silence between us was thick and heavy. Emma pushed back from the table, her chair scraping against the floor. "I should go," she said. "I do not want your charity, especially not now." "Wait." "Why? So you can punish me for what my grandfather did? So you can feel some kind of satisfaction watching me struggle?" Her voice cracked with emotion, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. "I am so tired," she continued. "I am so tired of carrying the weight of sins I did not commit. I was a child when those workers were hurt. I did not even know about any of it until the lawsuits started." I stood up slowly. "Emma, please sit down. Give me one reason why I should trust you." I thought about her question, really thought about it. "Because I know what it feels like to be judged for things beyond your control. Because I know what it feels like to be hungry and desperate and alone. Because despite everything, I do not believe punishing you would bring my father back or heal the wounds my family carries." She stared at me for a long moment. "What do you want from me?" "Honestly, I do not know yet, but I know that leaving you on that street corner would make me no better than the people who destroyed my family." Something in her posture relaxed just slightly. She sat back down. "My grandfather was not a good man," she said quietly. "I know that now. I have read the court documents. I have seen what he did to workers like your father. But he was also the only person who ever made me feel safe when I was little. He used to read me stories and take me fishing on Lake Michigan." "People are complicated," I said. "Yes, they are." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of history settling around us like dust. "I have a proposition," I finally said. Emma looked at me warily. "I own a foundation that helps people transition out of homelessness, job training, housing assistance, counseling. I would like to offer you a spot in the program." "Why would you do that?" "Because helping you would be the most unexpected thing I could possibly do. And because maybe, just maybe, healing starts with breaking the cycle of pain. She studied my face, searching for deception. I do not want special treatment because of who my family is. You would not get it. You would work alongside everyone else in the program, same rules, same expectations. And what about you? What do you get out of this? I considered her question carefully. Maybe some peace, maybe a chance to prove that I am more than my anger. Maybe just the satisfaction of doing something good for someone who needs it. Emma was quiet for a long time. Okay, she finally said, I will try. Those 3 words felt like the beginning of something neither of us fully understood. 3 months passed. Emma threw herself into the Foundations program with a determination that surprised everyone, including me. She attended every workshop, completed every assignment, and never once asked for special consideration. I watched from a distance at first, unsure of my own motivations. Was I helping her out of genuine compassion, or was I trying to prove something to myself about who I had become? The answer, I eventually realized, was both. One evening, I received a call from the program director. Mr. Webb, I think you should come down here. There is something you need to see. I arrived at the Foundation's headquarters in Oak Park to find Emma standing in front of a room full of program participants. She was speaking about her journey, her voice steady and strong. I used to think my family name defined me, she was saying. I thought I was doomed to carry the shame of what my grandfather did forever. But I have learned something these past few months. She paused and looked around the room. We are not our families, we are not our pasts, we are what we choose to do with the life we have been given. I stood in the doorway watching her command the room with a presence I had not seen that first day on the Chicago street corner. After the session ended, she found me in the hallway. You came, she said. I did. Why? Because I wanted to see who you were becoming. She smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I had seen from her. I got a job offer today, administrative assistant at a nonprofit in Evanston. They know about my family. They do not care. That is wonderful, Emma. I wanted to thank you, not just for the program, but for seeing me as a person when you had every reason not to. I felt something release in my chest, something old and heavy that I had been carrying for far too long. My father would have wanted me to help you, I said. He was a good man. He believed in second chances. Emma reached out and took my hand. Then let's honor him together. Let's build something that breaks the cycle for good. In the weeks that followed, Emma and I developed an unexpected partnership. She brought a perspective to the Foundation that I had been missing, the perspective of someone who had experienced both sides of the economic divide. Together, we expanded the program to include families affected by corporate misconduct. We created scholarships and job placement services specifically designed to help people rebuild after being wronged by the powerful. I learned that healing does not come from vengeance. It comes from transformation. It comes from taking the pain that was given to you and turning it into something that helps others. Emma Richardson became one of my closest advisors, not because of her family name, but because of who she chose to become despite it. And me, I finally found peace with the ghost of my father. I like to think he would be proud, not of the billions I accumulated, not of the empire I built, but of the moment I chose compassion over revenge on a rainy Chicago street corner. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.